Welcome to this month's English and Hindi Webmaster Hangout. So this is Syed and I'm Ashish, and we're here to answer your questions. And before we start off on the questions asked in the Q&A app, if you guys have any live questions, please go ahead. Anyone? Okay, we'll just start with the before Q&A app. I think we got some questions in the comments from the forum, so maybe we'll take that.
Yeah. So by the way, it would be great if all of us can post questions in the Q&A app because when we broadcast, those are also recorded.
All right. First question was asked by Paritosh Trivedi. So he asks why Google AdSense does not support Hindi language, or why does it not approve Hindi blogs?
Yeah.
I don't think we honestly don't have any idea regarding ads and AdSense.
Yeah, basically, as far as I know, AdSense for Hindi is not yet launched. But with a lot of things happening in the web, basically, you guys know, we have also launched the Indic Languages Alliance, right? Internet Alliance with basically government is involved, Google is involved, other companies are involved, and other people, other publishers who publish in Hindi are also involved. So we basically launched this alliance, and Google is also working on a lot of things to make Indic web ecosystem better, right? So we have things like Hindi speech recognition, Hindi keyboards, things being built. So I think AdSense maybe is also on its way because, of course, we know, I mean, when people want to publish in Hindi, there should be also resources for them to, generate some income from their blogs and things like that. People are asking about those things, and I think AdSense makes perfect sense for those kind of things. So my best guess is those things are being worked upon. I'm not sure because we don't work on the AdSense team, so we just don't know what exactly is happening, what is the timeline, things like that. But I think, yeah, uh, we will definitely, as I see, definitely will have monetization opportunities going forward. Not just from Google, but I think a lot of things will come up because Indic web in its entirety is growing, and interest is also growing. A lot of people are coming online in India who not necessarily are very fluent in English or read English, but are very fluent and read things in Indic languages. So I think this Indic web ecosystem is going to grow. So yeah, that is something to look out for.
And as a workaround, I think you can still use double-click ads. Those are display ads, and I mean, in display you can always add content.
Yeah, so best thing would be for you to get in touch with the AdSense team, maybe. Right. Okay, so there is another question from Paritosh again. His second question is, I'm a Hindi health blogger, but to come on top in search query, I have to add some English words like weight loss instead of wazan kam karna, because majority of Hindi article readers search in Google by typing in English. Example, how to lose weight in Hindi. Instead of writing wazan kam karne ke upay. Okay. So is it possible to come on top in search query even if I write in Hindi and only search for Hindi content but by typing in English is the example given by above. Okay, so basically the question is, if I have to summarize, so to ask if
Because majority of the articles users search by typing how to lose weight.
okay, there is some noise in the background. If you guys can basically mute yourselves.
So it's possible to come on top search query even. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. So if you guys have any questions, please unmute and ask questions. Otherwise, it will be great if you can just mute because there's some noise in the background. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So basically,
Yeah, Shankar, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question, and this is apart from the question that is already posted by me in this Q&A,
Hmm.
and this is regarding a very simple thing. Although I know the answer that what may be your possible answer, but actually I'm not getting it done. The problem is I have a few websites for which we have some very old pages indexed. Okay, and in between we made some changes in their URL structure. The URL is different now, the content is different now, but still I can see that both version of my page is being indexed by Google, and the previous version is more than 4 months old, and I'm not able to rectify it. So can you please suggest that what can be the best way to get rid of this?
Okay, I think we will answer the question I was reading out by Paritosh, and then we'll come back to your question. Is that okay?
Okay, yeah, fine, not a problem.
Right. So, Paritosh's question was basically, is it necessary for people publishing in Hindi language, in Hindi script, is it necessary for them to insert keywords in English to be able to rank, right? So I wouldn't definitely recommend that practice because um, when people are searching in Hindi, say for example, they want to read Hindi content, right? And we are from Google, our side, we are making all the effort to basically understand the Hindi script and show up appropriate results and things like that. And we have seen like a lot of people maybe using like English script and type in Hindi, which we call, for example, Roman English or transliteration, right? So people may also use that. Um, but again, I think if people are writing in transliteration and things like that, maybe they want to read articles that are transliterated. So if there are matching results, then we may serve those results. But if somebody is searching in Hindi, then we would prefer to show them Hindi because we know the user is convenient reading Hindi and things like that. So if you have Hindi article, I would definitely not recommend just for the sake of ranking in Google search results. Inserting keywords in English is not a very good practice and may not be very healthy in the long term, right? So since Hindi index, I mean the web pages online that are in Hindi are not as much as, of course, they are in English. So there are a lot of query spaces where people may be searching, but they may not be finding content because nobody is writing in Hindi in those content. So sometimes you may see a set of mixed results, like some articles written in English, some in Hindi, and things like that. But going forward, as more and more Hindi content comes up, I would say it will be a great practice if you can just focus on your users again instead of focusing on how you would make it to the top of the search results, and then keep your Hindi content in. Just think when you're writing an Hindi article, how useful it will be, or how good it will be for your users. If you insert English keywords in between, right? Would it make sense or not? How comfortable your users will be? How will they like it, or rather not like it,
Yeah.
right? So
And
keep those things in mind.
from our side, we are putting effort into like helping people use Hindi keyboards like
Absolutely.
better. And there are apps coming up on mobile where you can sort of like write with your fingers, I think, Hindi words just to type, search,
Yeah.
and of course voice input also.
Yeah. So a lot of things been happening. So the people who are actually publishing in Hindi right now,
They're probably facing some problems, but
yes, yes. So I'm not saying that there are no problems. There may be some problems because the entire ecosystem is not very mature as it is in English. But slowly but surely, these problems will go away. So it is best for you to like focus on your users and see in the long term. Great. So Shankar, your question. So if I got your question right, you were saying you have an older version of Pages and a newer version of Pages.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And you see both of these versions indexed by Google.
Mhm.
Okay. Are these residing on different websites?
No, no, they are on same website. See, I'm just giving you some details on this problem that we are facing.
Mhm.
Uh, this is from a very simple website. It's a static website, and we made some changes in look and feel of the page. We made we rectified the URL, as well as you can say that the complete page was revamped. And then also when we look at the same in Google Index, we see that the previous version is still indexed, and the new version is also indexed, and the URL, previous URL, is permanently redirected to the new URL. So how to get rid of this?
Okay, so if you have already done a 301 permanent redirect on the older version to the newer version, I think what you're saying ideally should not happen. When did you do this? If it is like very recent and Google hasn't seen it, then maybe yeah, it will take some time before the old version is replaced. But if you're saying like both the versions are indexed and there is also 301 and redirect in place, then I really doubt if Google has seen that 301 redirect.
See, actually, it's more than 2 months when we implemented 301 redirect, and if we click on the link that is appearing on index of old page, it is bringing me to the new page.
Okay.
Okay, but the snippet and the title and description appearing in old index page is from the old page itself. So that is the problem that we are
Yeah,
facing.
generally you shouldn't be facing that problem, but at least one workaround for now is you can use cache removal in Google's webmaster tools.
Okay.
Just test one URL and use cache removal, and then your cache will be removed, and when that URL is crawled, it should be crawling the new content again. So
Okay.
do test that. But in general, like if your URL has been crawled again, if your URL has been crawled once more, then it should be seeing indirect and replacing the old content with the new content.
Okay.
And in a few corner cases, it could take more than 2 months. And sometimes, like for Google to see your content and recrawl.
Okay. Okay. So that's why I said in the very beginning that although I think that I know the answer, that it may be a possible answer, but this is the problem that I'm facing.
Yeah. For now, like just try the outdated cache removal.
Okay. Okay. I will do that. Okay.
Uh,
Thanks.
we'll take the next question from. No, I think we have another question on the comment section. Like we just take that one.
Right. This is from Mahesh Kumar. He says, apart from on-site SEO, content sharing on social media platforms, what would be the best SEO ranking factor for today or for 2015? Okay. So his question is basically what is the best ranking factor apart from two things, basically on-site SEO and So one thing to clarify here is that sharing your content on social media platform is not a direct ranking factor, right? So mentioning that along with other things as ranking factors is actually not correct, right? So yes, so that is not a direct ranking factor in the first place. Second thing is I think what is sustainable always is, again, I mean, it is very generic, but we have always been saying this, and we're going to continue to say this. Basically, focus on your users, see what is best for your users, right? So if you continue to provide your users with the best possible experience that you can, and whatever you have, right? I mean, if you have an expertise in an area and you have your views on that. If, for example, if you're publishing some news article, things like that, right? Instead of just repeating what is already being said on other websites and things like that, if you can have your own perspective, your own research, etc., some facts, things like that. You want small examples to make your content unique and more valuable, so that users would want to come back to your website for those insights, right? To read your content, to read your perspective on those kind of things. Although when you're talking about news item, it is like very common, right? Everybody writes about them or whatever. So if you can keep these kind of things in mind, ultimately your goal of your website would match with the goal of Google, that is to basically provide users with what they are actually searching for, right? And give them the best possible experience. So if you're doing that, then Google will automatically be in love with your websites and would want to show your websites to the users, right? So I think those are the things. And of course, we have a lot of resources that are there in our help center, and a lot of other resources we're coming up with, especially with mobile becoming bigger and bigger, right? So you may also want to take a look at that to make sure that your website is mobile friendly and people are actually experiencing good user experience uh, with your websites on the mobile devices, etc. So things like that. Okay, so we'll go to the next question.
So there's a question in the chat posted by Sunny on so 2 days back there was a post by Barry on SEO roundtable about hidden content in tabs or read more text. So John Mueller wordings are here. Can you guys confirm, does Google really consider such content as hidden? So like what John was saying was it was not that like it's considered as a black hat technique or like something that can get you a manual action. It's rather that like if you have some content under read more, and if the user is searching for say something that if he's searching for specs on Ferrari, and like you don't have specs for that particular car on the main article, and instead it's under read more, like a user's first impression when he comes to that particular page, maybe he can't see that particular content immediately, right? So it's maybe frustrating to the user. So that's what John meant. But it's not like putting content under a different tab or under read more gives you a manual action or anything. Okay. I hope that answered your question, and we'll go to the Q&A questions in the Q&A. All right. The first question is by Sanjit Chakraborty. Uh, in mobile sitemap, shall I give corresponding desktop URLs as canonical and desktop sitemap mobile URLs as alternate? Yeah, you can do that. That's totally fine. I mean, that's a pretty short
Yeah,
answer,
I
but
think
yeah.
that is what you should be doing.
Yeah.
Ideally. Yeah.
Next is by Praveen. Mobile website or responsive, which version is best for mobile devices in terms of SEO? Is there any ranking boost given to a website's web version if website is mobile friendly? First, versions in general, what our recommendation is to use responsive web design because it's fairly, it's it's pretty simple to maintain and manage, and like once you get through the initial designing the website, like it makes it far more easier for both your users and for Google to like view the website as one entity instead of like viewing it as a desktop page and a mobile page, and it won't involve too many redirects or those kind of errors and stuff. But there are many legitimate cases where people may need like different websites or uh, websites where they're dynamically serving content depending upon which device the user is visiting from. So that's totally fine. There's no like it doesn't mean just because you're using Google's recommended method you'll get better ranking from that. You can use any of them, whichever like makes the most business sense for you. Secondly, your question is there any ranking boost given to a website's web version if website is mobile friendly? As far as I know, no. I mean, there could be some cases where, like, if you're using, if your page is so slow that it's not mobile friendly, then there could be, it's a case of page speed and not mobile friendly per se. But if your site is slow or something, if other factors are involved, then your site could be ranked lesser than other sites. But in general, just because the site is mobile friendly, you don't get any direct ranking upgrade. Only thing is you get, I mean, like people can see, it's a visual indication. People can see if a site is mobile friendly or not. Like we've recently launched that, if you're aware. So if a site is mobile friendly, they get a mobile friendly tag on Google search on mobile. So that's like pretty cool, and like any user would probably want to click on a site that's mobile friendly than a site that's not. Any live questions? Any questions on whatever we answered or anything like that? Okay, we'll go ahead. Shankar asks, when we check mobile friendliness with the new tool, it okays all responsive sites. Is there any additional help that we can get? So the tool right now, it gives a basic advice on, like, if the links are too near that you can't really click on them properly, or if the font is too small to read, those kind of stuff. But if you use PageSpeed Insights tool, you get a bit more information on, like, maybe minifying the HTML or optimizing your images, and a lot more detail on what you can do to improve your website. Just because your site is basically mobile friendly doesn't mean like everything is all perfect. There could be other issues also, like small issues, but still something that you can fix and make your website better. Using PageSpeed Insights will like give you more information.
Yeah, that's what I said. And there is one more thing that I would like to ask here. When we look at page speed insights, suppose I have one website where we were advertising using AdSense and double click, but right now AdSense campaigns and double click campaigns are not running. But tracking codes are still there on the website, and page speed insights is saying that if we remove those codes, it will improve the rating or something.
So can
So,
you repeat the last part?
pardon?
Can you repeat the last part? Sorry.
Yeah, I am saying that although we are not running the campaign on AdWords and double click, but the code that was included in the website while we were running the campaign, it is still there. So what we do, we keep running campaigns time to time. It is not round the clock. Okay. So is it good to remove that code when we are not running, and or should I just leave it there? Because page speed insights says that if we remove that particular code, it will improve the loading time of our website.
Yeah, so it makes sense, right? What happens is probably that particular script is blocking your page to load immediately. I mean, I'm just didn't see the site. I'm just saying it from basic common issues that we normally notice. If a particular script is like blocking, what happens is your page will start to load. Yeah, your site will request a server for the content, and it will start to load. And then while it's loading, it'll see the script, and it'll again ask the server for like content regarding the script, and that's extra round trip for the site, right? That's probably slowing down your site.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's something that, like, if it's not necessary, you can probably delete it. And also, even in case the scripts are necessary, I think above the fold content, the content which loads immediately and which the user can see immediately, that should load first. And like what you can do is, for that particular content, you can inline CSS, so it loads immediately, and the remaining part, like, you can just load it after that.
Yeah, that is a better thing that we can do. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we have a question by Frederick. Does the category site of a shop need a SEO text, or is the product listing with a little description enough to rank? I have seen several good ranking sites with just a little text on the page. Yeah, it depends, I guess. Like, it depends from product to product. I mean, in general, if there's a good landing page for a particular product, and you have, like, even if the description is little, if it makes sense, that's generally enough. I mean, you don't have to like stuff keywords so it ranks on Google or anything. As long as it makes sense, and your user can understand the product sufficiently well, that should be fine. Of course, like, if there's a need for to explain the content in, like, in longer text, then that's probably the correct way to go with. So there's no one set rule that says, like, long description, short description, so many keywords or anything like that. It just, like, the user for a particular page just view it from that angle. Anything people want to add?
No, I think what you said is correct. I mean, there is no set rule of anything, right? We need this much content or whatever. But I think it is important for people. I mean, from a user perspective, if a user, when he or she lands on your page and they get the information that they need, I think that's fair enough. You don't need to like put in some extra effort just for the sake of ranking in search engines. You need not do that.
Okay, we have a question from Akshay.
Yeah, so Akshay says, I'm coming up with a service review site and will be great if you list down the points I need to take care of. I have it on a low latency VPS, which I think is a virtual server. Added webmaster and analytics. Will be submitting sitemap and using the Google Highlight tool. Okay, so Akshay is coming up with it's going to launch basically a service review website, and you want a list of points. Okay, so again, there is nothing like a list of points that you need to follow. What I can recommend is the SEO starter guide. That would be the best place for you to see what are some of the things that you can do to make your website more search engine friendly, right? And then we also have something called Webmaster Academy. If you're like very new to SEO and if you don't know where to begin, what to do, etc., these are the couple of resources that will be very, very useful, right? But if you know the basics, then probably you can go to the Webmaster Central's Help Center, Google's Help Center. You can find a lot of articles that may be applicable to your website that you may want to implement. So there's definitely not a list of things that we can actually give. But yes, of course, when you have specifically mentioned that you are in a low latency VPS, that is something to think about. So make sure that you are able to support the number of requests that you would get from your users, right? And also think about if your website is going to be big with many pages and stuff like that, Google will also be crawling your pages, right? So that will also need some bandwidth and some resources on your server and things like that. So I mean, I'm not saying like take a dedicated server or something immediately, but I think you should keep an eye on that. And as you are growing, make sure you have sufficient resources to support your growth, right? So that is important because again, if your website is like, even if your website is good, you have great content, great reviews and things like that in your website, but if it is not profitable, then it doesn't make sense, right? So you can also use the Page Speed Insight tool to see what is lacking and things like that, and then work on that. And specifically talking about service review website, right? So I think you're going to review services, right? That is what I understand by service review site. So one thing I would like to also say here is like, no, basically about the content, right? So when you're reviewing content, make sure that, as I mentioned earlier as well, you're giving like real perspectives and real value to the user who is coming to read those reviews, right? Do not make those reviews just for the sake of, inserting keywords here and there, looking at, okay, what are the most popular keywords I want to rank for, and then, just inserting those keywords in your content. Don't do those kinds of things. For search engine rankings. Rather, I would say build trust among users so that users can actually rely on your reviews. Right? They basically should trust your reviews and want to come back to your website whenever they have to buy something or take a service or something like that. Then they should remember, okay, I must go to the website and see if there are any reviews there because those are so genuine, so authentic, right? And of course, one other thing you should take care of is also like links and things like that. So there may be cases where people may approach you and then they say, okay, please review our service, and then give us a link back. We will pay so many dollars to you. This is very common in the review space, right? So you need to be aware of these kind of things like that. So what I would also recommend is go back and read the search quality guidelines that we have, Google search quality guidelines. Go through them thoroughly, especially the linking issues and the content of the quality and things like that, and make sure you are abiding by all those things.
And of course, like.
Okay, can I quickly add to that?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, thanks for the fantastic points. I have a specific query about SSL certificate. So recently Google said that it is trying to promote using HTTPS, and what that basically does is it's adding around 300 milliseconds to my site, and site load time is also a factor that is to be taken into consideration. So how do I go about with this?
Okay, I think that's a good question. So a lot of people still think that HTTPS or TLS, that when you implement that, it takes a lot of resources and loading time and things like that. But actually, that is becoming more and more untrue, actually, right? And I think the value it provides is worth the extra little time it takes for pages to load. So even if it is taking 300 milliseconds, I think there are definitely ways to optimize those 300 milliseconds, right? So you may want to look into that, how you can optimize. A lot of people on the internet actually are adopting HTTPS, right? And their websites are like pretty fast. There is almost no difference before and after HTTPS implementation. So I think look at what are those technical things that you can actually optimize, because it is possible. It is not that this is not possible, as far as I know, right? And even if you lose a few milliseconds here and there, I think it is worth it against the value HTTPS is going to provide, right? Because it is about your users again. They are going to be secure when they are coming to your website. And it also adds the trust factor and things like that. So I think it is definitely a thing you should think about and implement.
And yeah, and you also can definitely optimize like the HTTPS load time by clearing the cache and those small things.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of things that you can actually. There are a lot of resources that have come up actually online that actually talk about how you can optimize your implementation.
Thanks, guys. That was great. Thank you.
We'll take the next question from Devang. And after that, there seem to be some questions in the chat. Like, I mean, it's fine for now, but I'd rather you guys post in the Q&A app, because you can actually select those questions, and when you're viewing the Hangout, you can actually go directly to your question by clicking on that.
Yeah, so what happens is if you use the Q&A app, these questions will also be recorded. Since this is an Hangout, it's going to be recorded, right? So if you want to reference back, I mean, if you come back and it will be easy to navigate to those questions. And people who are watching Hangouts in the future, it will be helpful for them as well. So instead of posting your questions in chat, it will be great if you can use the Q&A app. So on the screen, you can see a Q&A thing. If you can just click that, you will be able to post questions.
I've seen some major changes in Google Cache and many sites not getting cache from October. Not that we know. So, like, I mean, we'll definitely keep you posted on if there's anything major, any major alerting thing happens. But like, not, I don't know. I don't think
Yeah, so I'm not sure, but if you're managing a lot of these websites, then just go back and check if there is any problem with your servers, right, from your end or anything like that. If Google is able to like access your web pages, your robot.txt files, etc. So those are some of the things that you should check. Otherwise, we haven't seen this problem, and we haven't heard, and nobody complained about this problem ever. I mean, if it is happening from October and if it is happening with a lot of people, then we would have definitely heard about it. So I think this is, I don't believe it is a problem right now. So you may want to go back and check your servers and your websites maybe once.
Okay, Preeti asks a question. I have an e-commerce website which was doing good but lost ranking. The look and feel of the website was changed, but the content was same. Honestly, like without actually taking a look at the website, I can't really say much. But like, do check your webmaster tools to see if there were any issues with Googlebot accessing your website, or if there were any manual actions or any security issues with regards to your website. But like, if you are here, like, could you add some context there?
Is Preeti here? Preeti?
Yeah, could you add some context? I mean, like, without actually looking at the website, we can't really say much. But like I said, do check your Webmaster Tools account for any issues with access, or any issues from Google's side, like manual actions or any security issues that we noticed on the website.
Also, make sure, I mean, if at all you have changed the URLs, right? So make sure that all URLs are 301 to directly into the URL. Not sure if that is the case, but yeah.
नहीं है नहीं. Yeah, can you do this? Hello?
Yeah,
Please, go ahead.
Yeah, basically, we didn't find any issues on Webmaster Tools, as what you're saying. But basically, the thing is, we lost quite not so much, but there was an ranking effect. and the website, the contents were the same, and as you were telling us, the URLs, the naming of the URLs, that is also been kept the same. So there wasn't any issues from our side. So
Yeah.
basically, any other hidden factors?
Maybe
Uh,
you may also, I mean, I'm just thinking,
Normally, there are some fluctuations in ranking that happen
yeah,
from time to time, but in general, if your content is same, it could just be that, like, maybe other sites are ranking better. There could be any other issues, but yeah, I mean, without actually taking a look at the website, we can't really say anything specific. I really suggest you post it in our Google Webmaster Help Forum. So,
Okay, fine.
but one piece of advice would also be, I mean, since you have redone your website, I think this is a good time and opportunity for you to go back and take a look at like page speed, things like page speed and mobile friendliness and things like that, right? So this may be
Yeah,
a good time for you to optimize those things.
and even content also, like, I mean, you can just look at like what you could change there, what you could make better, or like how users will find
yeah,
it.
we are doing. Yeah, we are
Yeah,
taking
but
care.
generally, I'd suggest you post it in the forum so like people can actually specifically look at if there are any actual issues other
All right,
than.
all right. Thanks a
Right.
lot.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Meet Mali asks a question. If I'm posting a blog, then according to me, pentameters, how much words are good for ranking? And please tell the length of description and title tags. So frankly, there's nothing, there's no rule of any 500 word blog or anything like that. And like, I mean, description, length, and title tags, just do like put in whatever you feel like it's necessary for the search engine to understand that particular page. So title tags, like, just think about, like, if your page is describing a particular service, just uh, like give appropriate title tag. You don't need to think about like if it should be 10 words long or 20 words long. And same with description. Obviously, like, it shouldn't be too huge, but just think about like how you can describe your page properly using that tag.
Yeah, so I think what is important is basically to try to, I mean, make your titles and descriptions as relevant as possible to the content on the page, right? Because those are two important pieces that basically user sees on a search results page about your web page, search results about your web page, right? So, so if you can basically summarize the contents of your page and make it as relevant as possible, so that when a user is reading the title and description, he gets an idea, okay, what's inside, right? So if you can set your title and description to, like that, it'll be great. And I think um, if you're just trying to make your titles very long, just trying to include keywords and stuff like that, that is also not going to be very useful. Because again, what I mean, when you look at the search results in the search results page, right? There is only limited space, right? How many words can be shown, right? So make sure that you are able to cover whatever width there is available on the search results page, if you can describe your pages within that. And also, one thing to keep in mind is that talking about titles and descriptions may not always be taken from the titles and descriptions that you have provided for your pages, right? So Google might sometime also pick snippets from the content of your pages to show as titles and descriptions. So that is also something you need to keep in mind. Yeah.
Amit asks how many H1 and H2 tags are relevant for search bots. What if you provide a summary for a product on mobile version as compared to detailed description for the same product on desktop version? Will that be considered as cloaking? So if you have two different mobile page, like a different desktop page and a different mobile page, and that should generally not be considered as cloaking, because you're like the content is basically different, right? You have different URLs and you're just telling this is my mobile version and this is my desktop version. That shouldn't be that wouldn't be cloaking, because you have to clear separate URLs. On responsive web design, if you are like hiding part of the content, that is generally not encouraged, because like that's the same page, and I on responsive web design, I'd suggest like don't hide content. But if you have different URLs, then it's completely fine, because like the whole purpose of having a different URL is to have content tailored for the mobile page, right? And with regards to H1 and H2 tags, chapters, like like use whatever you feel is necessary with regards to your design issues and your design choices.
Ashish,
Any follow-up question?
well, Ashish, I have a related question here. It is regarding the number of HTML tags in a page. Usually, we were told that we should keep only one HTML tag on every page. But I read somewhere that if our website is designed in HTML5, then we can have multiple HTML tags. So is it true, or it's just a havoc?
See, if you feel it's necessary, you can use multiple H1 tags.
So I think you should go back and think about what this H1 tag is actually used for, what it means to your users, to your content, right?
Okay.
That is on the page and things like that. So thinking about as simple, for example, a news article on a newspaper, right?
Okay.
They have different headings, right? So they have, for example, on a page there may be similar headings, I mean, same size headings, repeating thrice or four times, because they are pertaining to different news articles, right? So how their newspaper is structured is like, okay, you have this size of a heading, and under that you may have a subheading and then content. And same size of heading which describes an entirely different news article. So that kind of usage basically makes sense for you to use more than one H1C, for example, right?
Okay.
So it completely depends on what your content is, right, and what your design structure is. So what the flow of the content is and things like that. So there is no restriction on you using one H1 tag only per page. It is not like that, and it is not that if you use more H1 tags you will rank better. There is nothing like that. So I think these are basically choices that you should make depending on what type of content you have and what flow you want to give to the users.
Yeah, got your point. See, actually, when it comes to web content or websites, I am not confused. But the thing is, when we are talking about designing a blog, then it becomes confusing for me at least. Like on a blog homepage, I am providing multiple titles, or you can say some brief of the blog content. So usually, if I'm using WordPress, then the default theme uh, gives all the blog titles on homepage in H1. So that is something where I was getting confused at whether it is negative for my site or it's positive. So although you answered my question that it all depends upon usability.
Absolutely. So see, I mean, again, this blog homepage is again an example of a newspaper page, right, where you have different articles. So then it absolutely makes sense to have all your titles of all different posts to be in the same size, right? So you may use the same tag for all of those because those are the same things visually and structure-wise. So it
Yeah.
makes perfect sense, right? So you will never be penalized for using more than H1 tag in those scenarios.
Okay, okay. And usually when I was talking about WordPress, see, although I know it's not about WordPress, but this is something related to H1 itself. I see that in most of the WordPress themes that we purchase or that we design, usually logo is placed as H1. So is it a good practice or bad practice?
I didn't get that question completely. You mean logo is within the H1 tag?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, thinking from an HTML perspective, I'm not sure if it would make sense for you to put a logo in the H1 tag, and I'm not sure why people do that.
Exactly.
Right?
That is my problem actually.
But see, honestly, like these are pretty small things, and like I suggest just again, like what Syed said, go by what the end product is. Like what as a user, if you're looking at a page, how does it look to you? Does it actually make sense having three headings on the same page?
Yeah.
Go by that. But yeah, these are some small issues, and I don't really think you should need to focus on.
Yeah, so especially talking about logo in specific, I think we also have
Schema.
support for supporting the wrist snippets thing, right, for logo.
Yeah,
So if you
yeah.
can, yeah, absolutely. If you can implement that, that will be great.
Okay, okay, fine, thank you.
Frederick's question on is there a different index for informational navigation or transactions served? For example, is a user looking for buying shoes or just shoes? Generally, all web search results are under the same index. Of course, like depending upon the query, we may show different results. I mean, like the results for shoes and buying shoes may be completely different because some may just describe shoes and there could be other websites that aggressively promote buying shoes. There could be other parts of universal search also involved like shopping results and all those ads and stuff. But in general, all web search results are under the same. What is a more effective title separator for SEO purposes, pipe or dash? Frankly, I'd say just use whatever makes sense. These are things that honestly you shouldn't be like thinking or focusing too much on. You don't want to spend time on if you're using pipe or dash or like whatever makes sense. If you're reading it, if both sound fine, then yeah, it's totally fine. Of course, there could be cases where like there companies do test the fonts and like whatever do A by B testing for what looks best for users and stuff. But like from a ranking perspective, it doesn't make much difference. Like as long as the title makes sense, we could probably end up using whatever title you provided, or depending upon different queries, we may actually use different titles for your site also. So like for that, use whatever you feel looks good. And makes the most sense for your page.
Yeah, hi guys, can you listen?
Yeah.
Basically, we have one website with us. We have put it on the added the meta tags on the title bar, but the Google doesn't show the title. It shows the company name. We have tried changing the title for with different keywords, but it keeps showing that company name for all the pages inside this website.
In general, if we notice any like major duplicate meta tag issues or stuff, we generally mention that in Webmaster Tools under HTML improvements.
Okay.
But if you have unique title tags and meta tags, we should be showing it because it doesn't make sense to show the same title for all pages on your site. If you do have different titles and descriptions, we generally do show for those pages, but again, like without actually looking at each page in particular, we can't really.
So you mean to say you're seeing the same title and description for all your pages, is that?
No, just the title.
Just the title, same title for everything.
Yeah.
Okay. So
in some cases, it could just be that like Google automatically decides that this makes the most sense, and whatever title you provided doesn't really like provide context to the user's query. But it shouldn't. I mean, it could happen a few times. But if it's happening all the time, there could be some issues either on implementation side. You can just again, I'd say, post it to the forum so people can actually take a closer look at what's the.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Gopal asks, in Google Webmaster Tools, we have multiple pages showing duplicate title tags, but we set up a rule in htaccess. Okay, I think the question is cut off. So,
Gopal, if you can complete your question.
And I think, in general, like duplicate title tags, again, it's good to have unique title tags for each different page, and in some cases, even if you don't, if Google thinks it makes more sense to provide a different title for a particular page, we would probably end up, posting a different title. But again, it's a good practice to have unique title tags for each page. So, I mean, yeah, I have no idea what that is.
Guys, I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, when I'm designing my website, so there will be multiple URLs relating to the same content due to taxonomies. So for instance, I'm listing classes over there. So if we are talking about commerce, we also have BCom. So URL will be xyz.com/commerce/ the name of the class, and it can also be xyz.com/commerce/BCom/name of the class. Basically, the content will be same, but the URLs will be multiple. In this case, how do I deal with the situation?
So you generally, obviously, the content is same. So you just mention one proper URL is canonical, so that even if you don't, in most cases, Google's pretty good enough to recognize that there are 4 URLs and all of them have the same content. So we generally pick one URL to show in web search. But like if you if you from your perspective want one just one URL to be shown, and you have one preferred URL that you want to be shown in search, you can just mark that page as the canonical, and like from the other pages you can like give a hint to Google using the rel canonical tag that's saying, hey, rel canonical and page XYZ whatever is the canonical version.
Okay, thank you.
So Prasad asks, what is going to happen to authorship now? Where do I find the author stats? So I like as John announced previously, authorship is no longer supported in search. So I don't think author stats and stuff is.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, it's deprecated. So yeah. I think we're almost out of time. So
Any
unless
last
we have any last
questions?
questions. Alright, it's been nice meeting you guys. Thank you.
Yeah,
And
so we'll
see
be doing
you
this hangout again next
in
month.
a month. Yeah, and
Yep.
if you guys have not are not part of the Google Webmaster India community, please do join. So we generally post updates on any events that we hold for Indian webmasters there. So you can find the Google India Webmaster community under communities page in this Google Webmasters page. So under the community section. So please do join, and see you guys.
Okay.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a nice day.
You too.